Now, when we speak about business and economy, let's go back to the genesis as to what have been the clauses which are actually going to be impacting the business. As stated by our speaker, that India has two kinds of economy. One, the regular economy, another being the non-regular economy, or also known as parallel economy. The statement states that, or the research states that parallel economy tends to grow at double the rate of what your normal regular economy tends to grow at. So, and over the years, it was always that the IT industry, or that is the IT income tax department, used to complain to the government that we do not have that bite to catch these tax preparators. In this budget, the budget has actually given them the bite to go ahead and catch those tax preparators. Now we rate it, and we are trying to weight it on the basis of positive aspects and on the basis of negative aspects. Whether what the government has done or whether what the budget has done is it actually feasible? Is it actually something good? To start along with the negative list, the first thing which comes is the blow to startups. Now this, coming out with the concept of fair market value evaluation is actually like a big body blow to the small to the small companies which are just trying to come and try to scale up their businesses. Something like taxing them at 30% and taking the income as source of other income. Now this is something bad. Another important factor is the coming of GAAR, that is General Anti-Avoidance Treaty. Now what does GAAR state, and what does this aspect of and what does this fair market value calculation does is that I'm giving much more discretion into the hands of the tax person. Now, don't you think it will increase the amount of corruption? Those companies who are able to pay their way through will be able to move up the ladder. But what about the small companies? But not everything is bad. Let's have a look at the positive aspects. That is APA agreements. Next to move on is the ECBs. In the core sectors, external commercial borrowings have been allowed, be it in aviation, be it in power sector, be it in the infrastructure sector. And last but not the least is the proposed FDI in retail, which we believe that the government, the budget actually just made a mention of it. So the government is actually giving it a thought, although it does not have the political clout to go ahead with this FDI policy. Now, the most important of the thing is the retrospective amendment in the IT Act. Now, I just want to ask people, because a lot amount of reading has been done regarding this, who are the people who are actually for it and who are the people who are against it? Guys who are against it, do you think that this retrospective act is actually something which is great or something which is actually good? The fact, what we believe is that something like this is actually good for the economy because, point number one, there was assets involved which were in Indian origin. Point number two, there was no tax being paid by Vodafone even in the source origin, that is Cayman Islands. And point number three being that the economic value derived was from India as such. Moving on to the economy front, the most important fact is the amendment to the fiscal responsibility and budget management. The target is given by the budget committee is 3-year rolling target. Now, what we believe is that this is something the government is just asking for more time, because with regards to fiscal revenue deficit, and that's it.
Basically, anything which is done retrospectively is bad in law, which is not right.
Market premium that has been applied, it's bad for startups. It doesn't apply to startups. It applies to all unlisted, privately held companies, right? In fact, for the startups, they've given a boost that anybody who wants to save the capital gain, should invest in startups. Like anybody, you sell a property or you sell your stake in an unlisted company. To save on the capital gain, you invest in a startup. So that's not bad at all for startups. In fact, startups, they have given that you should invest in it. So that law, in fact, lies to all privately held companies.
So, I believe there was a misinterpretation on our part that we stated as a
startup. You had promised to demystify the googly. The googly was to take one of the 3 wickets. 1, the growth. 2, the inflation. 3, the fiscal discipline. Now, I did not find that you have got any one of the wickets right in your hand. Suppose I give you to monitor your googly on one of these wickets. Which is the one that the finance minister has been attempting to take and has been positively throwing the ball at the wicket?
So the attempt lies in the fact of the government trying to increase the revenue part and trying, as stated, they have came out with this trying to increase the capital expenditure so that more revenues could be generated or the cash flow could be generated. I believe yes, there is a positive step in that regards. But again, as I stated in my slide, that the question is where our only concern is where are those funds going to be coming from? Because we do not want the government to be borrowing on a larger scale and this increasing the interest outlay for the government. So yes, steps have been taken, but it shouldn't be that I'm taking one step ahead and moving 2 steps backwards.
You said that 92% of the capital is from borrowing. The central
Capital
government.
receipts.
The central government,
Yes.
does it have any other source of raising the capital? And historically taking from 2000 till now, what had been the sources and which were tapped other than disinvestment?
As I think rightly pointed by you, the normal sources that the government has, one, disinvestment. Point number 2, the savings. That is your PPFs, where the government tends to get its money from. Again, as you had asked that what has been the actual rate of saving, the actual rate of savings actually fallen. I think last year it was 33%. This year it has fallen till 32 to 31%, or in that range. So yes, the funds have been choking up, making the government to borrow outside. But the problem is, again, as you know that the economically or globally, the economic scenario hasn't been that great. So we are borrowing at quite a larger rate of interest. So yes, we have been taking borrowings, or we have always been focused on borrowings. But the question is, is it feasible for us to pay that large amount of interest? Because we already have, CAG report stated that 25 lakh crores is what we have, is what the coal mines are worth about. Why can't we, get money by privatizing those things? Because already we have assets in our hands. Why aren't we, you making use of them? Why to borrow when we already have assets in our hands? Any other questions?
This is with respect to the retrospective amendment that you were talking about, and you believe that it's a huge plus. Now, given that, how do you think people are going to handle the amount of litigation, and what do you think is going to be the investor sentiment?
So definitely the investor sentiments are going to be bad, but if we have a look in the past, in over past 10 years, retrospective amendment to IT Act has been done 175 times. Is it because the deal was involving Vodafone that we are giving it much amount of limelight? That's the question we need to ask. Another thing is, again, as I stated, the cornerstone of why this whole telecom industry has been booming is because the government started giving cheap spectrum. That was the cornerstone. So if an economic benefit has been derived from a country like India, why aren't we allowed to tax it? Had we, sold those spectrums at higher rate, no one would have came there. The market wouldn't have developed. 2002, I remember, the spectrum was, there's still that people stating that the spectrum was sold at a lesser price. But the fact is, to attract investors, you have to bring down the prices. Once that is done, you can raise the prices. So why can't I tax them? So what is it bad? You have countries like UK, you have countries like Australia who have been, who have made amendments. No one points fingers out there. Why is it that whenever a developing country tries to do something different, why is it that we are held by all the global investors? They hold us as if we have committed some kind of a crime. We have a right. We have a right to gain income. We have a right. We are answerable to the people who have elected us to power.
That's another point. The Income Tax Act was made in 1961. In 1961, you cannot cover all the aspects which are taxable. The situation in 1961 and today is different. So you have to make amendments to tax companies which are going tax-free. Even in the Vodafone case, if you see, if they are not paying tax at the origin, Cayman Islands, they are not paying tax in India, they are having a huger profit as compared to what they should have. So if the asset is of India, if the rights are of India, why should India not get a part of the share of the profits? Simple question. which we are just thinking it from the point of view of why did Mr. Pranab Mukherjee take such a big action and go against the judgment of the Supreme Court? Because of this simple question that if it's an Indian asset, why should I not get a share of it? Because we've helped Vodafone and Hutchison develop the Indian markets.
So another thing, it's not regarding the question. What we see, if you see the whole presentation, what we are trying to do is we are trying to prop up the questions which we came across when we were doing our research. So there are a lot amount of whys, but is there an answer? The questions are there, and where can you find answers? You know, rather than this kind of a forum where I have people, you know, who are industry stalwarts in their own way. If I won't ask these questions out here, where will I ask them?
I have a question for you. You're trying to defend taxation in this country, yeah? Now, what I want to ask you is, there should be a purpose. You're collecting more money. Is it going to enhance growth? Is it going to cut down inflation? Are the people going to be benefited for it? So we're just trying to define taxation and try to defend it. And if the benefit is not flowing into the country, as Professor Suresh had also pointed out. Now, what's your line of defense? Because this doesn't appear justified for me at all, unless the budget really calls for it. Unfortunately, this is one point which so far I've not seen. Is the budget, unlike in other countries, it does not define the route that the money takes to solve anything. So that's one thing I find totally missing here. You're only talking about numbers. Numbers don't complete a budget. The path is not clear. So what is your take on it? This is something I find totally absent in this budget.
So our take is that if you compare the last year's budget, there was